Hello, my beautiful people. I might be falling sick a little bit, but I really wanted to make this video. I want us to talk today about how sometimes certain product decisions, perhaps even design decisions or brand decisions, may still hurt the product or company overall. So we'll talk today about a couple of interesting cases that I found on Consumers Rights Wiki. It's all obviously crowd-based. It may have some inconsistent information, but I think that overall, like even looking into these cases is such a fun thing. We'll start with what happens when companies promise you that you will have a constant access to the product, but then they decide that, well, maybe not anymore. We will start with Teamviewer terminate perpetual licenses. Looks like the version number 11.12 were the last versions of Teamviewer that were not subscription-based, meaning that people bought like full-on licenses to use those, right? They kind of stopped supporting those. So, if you have a TeamViewer and you bought this perpetual license, kind of that you own the product, same with games. If they're no longer supporting it, it only means that in some time, the application will basically be rendered useless. Initial license fee was substantial at the time. I mean, I bet, because you're kind of like buying the whole product. So I would expect that it's much more expensive than just like a simple subscription. But licenses were given the option of paying for upgrades at a discount that will contain new features and enhancements. Okay, so yeah, I see it's like a combination of I pay, but then if I want to receive new features, I still like almost like go into the subscription model. Licenses were also promised that they would not need new features. They would not be forced to upgrade. Oh, so you can like have new features, but you can just use your license that you bought just to use the product. TeamViewer 12, however, was the last version that allowed such type of licensing. Okay, so new TeamViewer's products were subscription based. They changed the whole model of how they get the money, but they kind of what then do you do with the rest of the people that kind of bought these other licenses? So what they said this year, actually, that this final perpetual version will no longer function outside of local area network. I mean, most of the time you want TeamViewer kind of to work outside of your local network. it just feels like it. In addition, TeamViewer has also removed features from the product and reintroducing similar features in new products. Okay, removing features feels like no, like you paid for those and now they're being removed. Let's see what they wrote. Dear customer, thank you for being a valued TeamViewer customer. We are reaching out to inform you of an important update regarding your TeamViewer license. Support for TeamViewer versions 11.12 will officially end basically at the end of this year. As we continue advancing, this is such a lie, as we continue advancing the security and performance of our remote connectivity platform. I mean, just let's be honest, because we changed our model and now we're subscription-based. Could the new TeamViewer version absolutely offer new advancements? Yes, but I digress. How does this affect you? I mean, these versions will not be supported on our global network infrastructure, kind of rendering them useless. Because again, usually people use TeamViewer to connect to like other devices, maybe for work within support or other, and kind of use it for local connections. I don't know. Maybe you can just go to the other room and then access the device. Because they're not supporting it, obviously these older versions may become more susceptible to vulnerabilities because they're no longer working on supporting this. This additionally ignores users who pay for their lifetime perpetual licenses, where in YK the Linus of Linus Tech Tips only received a discount for the subscription for paying. Hold on, it is so expensive. So this YouTube channel, they paid $5,000 for this like upgrade to have the forever access only a few months before the announcement. So it's not like maybe you bought these versions at the beginning and at least you had a good run before the whole new thing starts. This is so disgusting. I mean, they promise an exclusive upgrade discount. Okay, imagine being the person that just bought it couple of hours before the announcement. You're like, hell yeah, like invest into this like thing maybe you need for business, and then they're like, hey girl, actually now it's gonna be, oh, this is terrible. So I will rate it as 4 out of 5 for being a very fishy. We're gonna do a rating 4 out of 5 fishes. But this is not the only example that I found here with these perpetual licenses. So right now we'll look into the Bandicam case. So Bandicam perpetual license invalidations. We definitely see that this article is incomplete, okay, but let's still see what we can take from this incredible situation that is absolutely not unique, unfortunately, within the tech world. Bandicam is a PC screen capture. For example, I use the open source OBS, but you can also use Bandicam to record various videos. It also can take screenshots, recording screen changes. It's a shareware, meaning that it can be used free with limited functionality and a watermark after recording. However, the company that develops and owns the rights to the software, Bandicam company, sells licenses for the software. Okay, so you can buy it, obviously, and then use it without probably a watermark from what I expect. However, they develop a new version of the software that the perpetual license for previous versions is not valid for. I mean, okay, so we have a Teamviewer 13. If consumers who purchase a perpetual licenses for the previous versions of Bandicam Bandicat wish to use the new version, they may have to repurchase for this new version or subscribe. And here's the problem. I mean, imagine you just had and bought the previous Bandicam, and then they're like, well, we have the new 2025 version, and you have to repurchase. Same type of license for the new tool. For consumers who purchased license before November 2023, they can upgrade their license to be valid with the 2025 version by paying $17. I think it's a very valid price. Okay, I mean, I'm still not a fan of it, but it's much nicer than what Teamviewer did in previous example by basically just saying, well, we can help you. However, for consumers who purchased a perpetual license afterward, maybe in 2024, they will have to purchase another license to use the 2025 version. Yeah, for people who bought before 2023, I think they did great. You can just create your license for a small fee. I feel it. But yeah, I agree that if you bought it in 2024, it means that you bought a perpetual license only for 1 year. Why not do same for everybody? I rate this 4 fishes out of 5. Some consumers abandon the software in favor for other screen recording software. Yeah, because here's the thing. We're talking about design here and product design. You have to work with your customers. It's about building the trusting relationship. Yes, it is about this. Why? Because customers give you money. And people like to give money to services, people, companies that they can trust. Or if they really don't have other options, then they pay before something other appears. As far as you know, Figma introduced dev mode, I think it was a couple of years back, which that a lot of developers can right now see much more information about designs, about the components used inside, all about paddings, sizes, which is great. But do you remember how it all started? So they introduced the dev mode, people been loving it, and they said, yeah, now it's behind the paywall. Now Figma has sent cease and desist letters to companies, including the Lovable, for using the term dev mode, claiming it infringes on their trademark. Oh, wait, okay, hold on. Why do we allow the trademark for such generic terms? Dev mode, it just means the development mode. This action sparked controversy and criticism within the tech community, with many arguing that dev mode is a widely used engineering term in the industry. Yeah, I just haven't read it until the end. Figma uses the dev mode gives you the power to easily inspect designs and translate them into code without changing the design file. Great. Lovable. You can now view the full code repository or backing your Lovable project directly in the Lovable editor. It is such a common action, right? You design something, and now you want to see the code version of the design? Crazy that this is under the trademark. Historical use. The term dev mode has been used in the tech industry, since at least 2004, according to Google Trends data. I bet. I mean, almost any website builder allows you to do that. You can build your website from blocks, but then you can go directly into the code editor and then maybe change some code changes yourself, right? It feels like the development mode. Legal precedents. While trademarking common terms is not unprecedented, the tech community is particularly sensitive to such actions, especially when they affect smaller companies and open source projects. Figma, with their cease and desist letter, they took legal actions. So they did it actually against several companies for using the term dev mode. The company has trademarked this term and has been sending these letters to smaller startups, demanding they stop using it. This move has generated significant controversy and criticism. I agree. So we see that Figma's current legal approach is desperate and suggests it might backfire. I agree. We love Figma not because of the namings, and usually creating this like trademark name, sometimes it is actually a problem for products and services because at a certain point you start to open the tool and instead of just like a very simple naming, it's like all trademark. I don't know, instead of the dashboard, it's like Insights Manager with an IP on the horizon and a rapidly changing history. It happened in April 2025, and what I found is that yes, Figma announces pricing of initial public offering. I didn't know, I think I just forgot that it went IPO. It was the July. So in February 2025, Mozilla introduced new terms of service for Firefox browser for the first time, as well as an upgraded privacy policy. These terms of service contain a section about the rights and permissions that user gives to Mozilla. You just know that's not going to be good. This has caused concern among Firefox users due to how the section was initially phrased. This year, in February 2025, Mozilla announced they will update these terms of service. They say that by adding these terms, they want to make their commitments abundantly clear and accessible. The new terms contain phrasing that has caused concern, and the reasoning for its inclusion in the privacy-focused browser. Concerns center especially around the phrasing. In the section, you give Mozilla certain rights and permissions. So section originally said, you give Mozilla all rights necessary to operate Firefox, including processing data as we described in the Firefox privacy notice, as well as acting on your behalf to help you navigate the internet. When you upload or input information to Firefox, you hereby grant us interesting, non-exclusive, royalty-free worldwide license to use the information to help you navigate, experience, and interact with online content as you indicate with your use of Firefox. I agree that right now, in the age of AI, that might be read as, hey, we're gonna use this stuff you are uploading or using, we're gonna use it to train our models. I agree that it's not abundantly clear and accessible language. The vagueness of terms resulted in user questioning how much of their data they were granting Mozilla a license to use. Mozilla's wording in their first round of these changes granted Mozilla a non-exclusive royalty-free worldwide license to use user input without specifying clear limitations. After backlash, Mozilla revised these words to clarify that data usage is restricted to user-requested actions. Worth noting, the announcement of the new terms of service and new privacy policy was made in the blog post one day after the terms and privacy policies were originally set to take effect, and no other communication was made to users. As of 27th of February, the terms was edited then to read effective February 28th, following the update in the language. Previously, Mozilla's FAQ included the statement, nope, never have, never will, whether they sell user data. Yes, selling is one thing, but using is another thing, so I'm just glad that the wording has changed. Okay, I'm so sorry, it took me such a long time. So what is the next one? That not only the terms of service were changed, and this is like all the things that we read before that, but also around the similar time, what happened was the change or the Firefox frequently asked questions section. It says you don't pay anything to use it and we don't sell your personal data, where here it's like you don't pay anything to use it. Okay. But then we don't have, does the Firefox sell your personal data? Nope. Never have, never will. That's a promise, pinky promise. But then you can see, well, it looks like they removed it. So both of these were present in frequently asked questions, but now they removed it. And again, it's like all around the same time where they updated these terms of services. They justified this change by pointing to evolving legal definitions of data selling, particularly under the California Consumer Privacy Act, which defines sale broadly to include certain data sharing arrangements. However, the revised terms of use do not explicitly prohibit Mozilla from selling data users in the future, leaving open the possibility of future monetization. And this is important. I'm so glad that there are so many people who are looking after this stuff and noticing all these small changes. I feel so proud of all these people. On February, Mozilla updated the terms to address the concerns people were having. This does not give Mozilla any ownership within content. This is something that they added to the privacy notice. I will give this whole story 2.5 fishes out of 5. The last but not least, we have story about Unity Engine runtime fee. Unity Software, aka Unity Technologies, is a publicly traded software company known for their Unity game engine, implemented sweeping changes to its pricing model for Unity that would affect all users of the engine, forcing users to either adopt their per download fee or delist their games. They decided to be, either that or buy. Prior to the runtime fee, Unity had multiple subscription tiers. Let's see what they used to have. They used to have Unity Personal, costs nothing and allows you to the Unity game engine to produce commercial works up until your revenue from the product created using the Unity game reaches $100, at which point you're required to change license. Unity Pro, that has some sort of price after you have the $100 in revenue, and then we have the Unity Enterprise. And now they announced, it was in 2023, so it's not a new story. Unity announced a runtime fee that's based on game installs, so not revenue but game installs, which fundamentally altered their monetization model. This runtime fee aimed to charge developers for a small amount every time an end user installed their application. To qualify for the fee, games must pass a minimum revenue threshold within the past 12 months and a minimum lifetime install count threshold. The following table, taken directly from the original announcement, lays out specific thresholds and install costs that the new model could impose on engine users. So these fees were applied These fees were applied retroactively to any product using the Unity runtime, including those released prior to this change. Okay, so this is where the fish starts to be fishing though. This announcement also removed the popular Unity Plus plan, forcing developers to the more expensive Unity Pro plan if they wanted to remove the backed-in Unity splash screen. So what I see here is that they primarily issued that prices hike for the successful companies though, and it looks like people saying that they were announced because Unity wasn't doing great financially. It was done a little bit in secret, and that they applied it retroactively, which meant probably that a lot of bigger studios had a worse experience. You can see that clear communication with people, trying to be more predictable of the company, using better words, and just overall, again, being transparent is probably the best policy. So thank you for joining me and reading through all these interesting stories about how these weird things that companies sometimes do, just thinking that it would work, that people wouldn't notice or whatever, that it breaks trust. So please let me know what you thought about all these cases. I find that I am so in awe of people who are reading through all of the things, investigating and sharing it with us. I think it's so important to know. So see you next time.